called Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder and is produced and directed by Emily Moulton.
Mary, Miss Borg, Miss Mason, Mr. Dick, Mr. Statnick, Mr. Gardner, and many others.
The name of the town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just across the Massachusetts line. The first act was A Day in Our Town.
The day is May 7th, 1901.
The time is just before dawn. One star always gets off right north where it has to go, doesn't it? Well, better show you how the town lies.
Up here is Main Street. Over here is the railway station. Tracks for that way.
Over there is the Congregational Church. Across the street's the Presbyterian. Methodist and Unitarian are over there.
Here's the town hall and post office combined. Jail's the basement. Along here is a row of stores. Horse blocks and hitching posts in front of them. First automobile is going to come along in about 5 years.
This is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. This is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. Corn, peas, beans, hollyhocks, heliotrope, a lot of burdock. In those days, the paper come out twice a week. Grover's Corners Sentinel. And this is Editor Webb's house.
And this is Mrs. Webb's garden, just like Mrs. Gibbs, only it's got a lot of sunflowers too.
Nice town, you know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever comes out of it, as far as we know. Well, as I said, it's about dawn.
The only lights in town are in a cottage owned by tracks where her mother just had twins. And the Crow house where Joe's getting up asked to deliver the paper.
And in the depot. There, you can hear the 5:45 for Boston. It's another day's begun.
There's Doc Gibbs coming down Main Street now, coming back from the baby case. And there's his wife coming downstairs to get breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. The new hospital's named after him.
Mrs. Gibbs died first. Long time ago, in fact. She didn't have to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who married an insurance man in Ohio, and died there.
Pneumonia. But her body was brought back here. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody.
Morning, Doc Gibbs.
Morning, Joe.
Sound like you've been sick, Doc?
No, just some twins born over in Polish Town.
You want your paper now?
Yes, please, I'll take it. Anything serious going on in the world since Wednesday?
Yes, sir. My school teacher, Miss Foster's getting married to a fellow over in Concord.
Ed Claire, how do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course it's none of my business, but I think if a person starts out to be a teacher, they have to stay one.
How's the knee, Joe?
Fine, Doc. I never think about it at all. But like you said, it always tells me when it's going to rain.
What's it telling you today? Gonna rain?
No, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Do you ever make a mistake?
No, sir.
I want to tell you something about the paper boy Joe Crow. Now, he was awful bright. Graduated ahead of his class, got a scholarship to Massachusetts Tech. Graduated ahead of his class there, too. It was all wrote up in the Boston papers at the time. Gonna be a great engineer, Joe was. Then the war broke out and Joe died in France. All that education for nothing.
G'day, Bessie. What's the matter with you today?
Here comes Howie Newsom to go to the mill.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Somebody sick?
No, just some twins born over at Mrs. Kostowski's.
Twins, eh? This town's getting bigger every year.
Gonna rain, Howie?
No, fine day. That'll burn through. Come on, Bessie.
Hello, Bessie. How old is she, Howie?
Bessie's going on 17. She's all mixed up about the route ever since the Lockharts stopped taking their quart of milk every morning. She wants to leave him a quart just the same. Keeps scolding me the whole trip.
Come on, Howie.
Morning, Mrs. Gibbs. Doc's just coming down the street.
Children, time to get up.
Come on, Bessie.
George, back up. Everything all right, Frank?
Yes, I declare. Easy as kittens.
Bacon will be ready in a minute. Sit on down and drink your coffee. You can catch a couple of hours of sleep this morning, can't you?
Mrs. Wentworth's coming over at 11. I guess I know what it's about, too. Your stomach ain't what it ought to be.
All told, you won't get more than 3 hours sleep. Frank Gibbs, I don't know what's going to become of you. I do wish I could get you to go away someplace and take a rest. I think it would do you good.
Emily, time to get up. Wally, 7 o'clock.
I declare, you've got to speak to George. Seems like something's come over him lately. He's no help to me at all. I can't even get him to cut me some wood.
Is he sassy to you?
No, he just whines. And all he thinks about is that baseball. George, Becca, you'll be late for school.
George, look sharp.
Yes, Paul.
Don't you hear your mother calling you? I guess I'll go upstairs and get 40 mix.
Wally, Emily, hurry up. Wally, you wash yourself good or I'll come up there and do it myself. Mama, what dress shall I wear?
Don't make a noise. Your father's been up all night and he needs his rest. I washed and ironed the blue gingham for you, special.
Ma, I hate that dress.
Oh, hush up with you.
Every day I go to school dressed like a steak,
turkey. Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice.
Mama, George's throwing soap at me.
I'll come and slap the both of you, that's what I'll do.
Children, now I won't have it. Breakfast is just as good a meal as any, and I won't have you gobbling like wolves. It'll stunt your growth, and that's a fact. Put away your book, Wally.
Ma, by 10 o'clock, I gotta know all about Canada.
You know the rule as well as I do. No books at the table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bright.
I'm both, Mama. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age. I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
I'm bright too, when I'm looking at my stamp collection.
I'll speak to your father about when he's rested. Seems to me 25 cents a week's enough for a boy your age. I declare, I don't know how you spend it all.
I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She has more than $1.
I've been saving up gradual. Well, dear, I think it's a good thing to spend some every now and then.
Mama, do you know what I love most in the world? Do you? Money.
Eat your breakfast.
I don't want any more.
Mom, gotta go.
Gotta hurry, Mom.
Bye.
Hurry, but you don't have to run. Wally, pull up your pants to the knee. Stand up straight, Emily.
Thomas Foster, I wish you my best congratulations. Can you remember that?
Yes, Mom.
Oh, you look real nice, Rebecca. Pick up your feet. Here, chick, 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 chick. No, go away, you. Go away. Here, chick, 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 chick. Morning, Myrtle. How's the cold?
Well, I still get that tickling feeling in my throat. I told Charles I didn't know as I'd go to choir practice tonight. Wouldn't be any use.
Have you tried singing over your voice?
Yes, but somehow I can't do that and stay on key. While I'm resting myself, I thought I'd string some of these here beans.
Here, let me help you with that. Beans smell good this year.
I've decided to put up 40 quarts if it kills me. The children say they hate them, but I've noticed they've been able to get them down all winter.
Now, Myrtle, I've got to tell you something. Because if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
Here, give me some of those beans. Now, Myrtle, did one of those second-hand furniture men from Boston come to see you last Friday?
Well, no.
Well, he called on me. At first, I thought he was just a patient waiting to see Doc Gibbs, and he wormed his way into my parlor. And Myrtle Webb, he offered me $350 for my grandmother Wentworth's highboy, as I'm sitting here.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
He did, that old thing. Why, it was so big, I didn't even know where to put it. And I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you're going to take it, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know? $350? What's come over you?
Well, if I could get the doctor to take the money and go away someplace on a real trip, I'd sell it like that. You know, Myrtle, it's always been a dream of mine to see Paris, France. Oh, I don't know. It's crazy, I suppose. But for years, I've been promising myself that if I ever got the chance.
Well, how does the doctor feel about it?
Well, I did beat about the bush a little, and said that if I ever got a legacy, that's where I put it, I'd make him take me somewhere.
What did he say?
Oh, you know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him since I've known him.
Well, Julia, if that second-hand man's really serious about buying it, you sell it, and you'll get to see Paris, all right. Just keep dropping little hints from time to time. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry I mentioned it. Only it seems to me that once in your life before you die, you ought to see a country where they don't talk in English. They don't even want to.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. Now we're going to skip a few hours.
First, we want a little more information about the town. Kind of a scientific account, you might say. So we've asked Professor Willard of our state university to sketch a few details of our past history here.
Grover's Corners, let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pleistocene granite of the Appalachian Range. I may say that it is some of the oldest land in the world. We are very proud of that. A shelf of Devonian basalt crosses it with vestiges of Mesozoic shale and some sandstone outcroppings. But that's a more recent 200, 300 million years old. Some highly interesting fossils have been found, I may say. Unique fossils 2 miles out of town in Silas Peckham's cow pasture. They may be seen at the museum in our university at any time. That is, any reasonable time. Shall I read some of Professor Gruber's notes on the meteorological situation, mean precipitation, etc.?
Afraid we won't have time for that, Professor. We might have a few words on the history here.
Yes, anthropological data. Early Amerindian stock, Cotahatchee tribes. No evidence before the 10th century of this era. No, entirely disappeared. Possible traces in 3 families. Migration towards the end of the 17th century of English brachiocephalic blue-eyed stock for the most part. Since then, some Slav and
The
Mediterranean.
population, Professor Willard?
Within the town limits, 2,640.
Just a moment, Professor.
Ah, yes, indeed. The population at the moment is 2,642.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. We're all very much obliged to you. Sure.
Not at all, sir. Not at all.
This way, Professor. Thank you again. Now we're going to hear a few words from Editor Webb.
Mr. Webb is publisher and editor of Grover's Corner Sentinel. That's our local paper now.
Well, I don't have to tell you. They were run by a board of selectmen. We're low middle class. Politically, we're 86% Republican, 6% Democrat, 4% Socialist, the rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestant, 12% Catholic, the rest indifferent.
Have any comments, Mr. Webb?
We're a very ordinary town, if you ask me, but our young people seem to like it well enough. 90% of them graduating from high school settle down right here to live, even when they've been away to college.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask Gary Webb anything about the town?
Is there no one
Come
in town?
forward, will you, where we can all hear you. What were you saying?
Is there no one in town aware of social injustice and industrial inequality?
Oh yes, so is. Everybody is something terrible. It seems like they spend most of their time talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Then why don't they do something about it?
Well, I don't know. I guess we're all hunting like everybody. For a way the sensible and diligent can rise to the top, the lazy and quarrelsome can sink to the bottom. Are there any questions?
Mr. Webb, is there any culture of love or beauty in Rivers Corners?
No, ma'am, not much culture, but maybe this is the place to tell you that we've got a lot of pleasures of a kind around here, like the sun coming up over the mountains in the morning, and the birds. We pay a lot of attention to them.
So I'm not. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. It's later than I thought. Children are coming home from school already.
I can't, Lois. I've got to go home and help my mother. I promise. Goodbye.
Emily, walk simply. Who do you think you are today?
Papa, you're terrible. 1 minute you tell me to stand up straight, and the next minute you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Golly, I've never gotten a kiss from such a great lady before.
Excuse me, Miss Forrest.
Go out and play in the field, young man. You got no business playing baseball on Main Street.
Awfully sorry, Miss Forrest. Hello, Emily.
Hello, George.
Gee, Emily, it's funny. From my window up there, I can just see your head. Nights when you're doing your homework up in your room.
Why, can you?
You certainly do stick to it, Emily. I don't see how you can sit still that long. I guess
What?
you like school.
I just feel like it's something everyone has to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, really. Passes time.
Yeah. Emily, what do you say we work out of time now? Telegraph from your window to mine? And every once in a while, if I get stuck on one of those algebra problems, you can just give me a hint. I don't know the answers in it. Of course, I'll just a little hint.
Oh, I think hints are allowed, George. So, if you get stuck, you whistle to me, and I'll give you some hints.
You're just naturally bright, Emily.
I just figure it's a way someone's born.
Yeah, but you see, I want to be a farmer. And my Uncle Luke says that whenever I'm ready, I can come and work on his farm, and that if I'm any good, I can just gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah, well, thanks for the talk, Emily. I better be getting out to the baseball fields. Good evening, Mrs. Webb.
Good evening, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily, come help me string some of these beans for winter. George Gibbs let himself have a real conversation, didn't he? Why, he is growing up. How old would George be?
I don't know.
Let's see. Why, he must be almost 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class today, and I was very good.
You must recite it for your father at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off a spool. I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, are these big enough?
Try to get them a little bigger if you can.
Mama, will you answer me a question? Serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously? Will you?
Of course I will.
Mama, am I good looking?
Well, yes, of course you are. All my children have got good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Oh, but Mama, that's not what I mean at all. What I mean is, am I pretty?
I've already told you, yes. Now that's enough of that. You have a nice, pretty young face. I've never heard of such foolishness.
Oh, Mama, you never tell us the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Well, yes, I was, if I do say it. I was the prettiest girl in town next to Mimey Cartwright.
But Mama, you've got to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. Now stop it. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Now come along and bring that bowl with you.
Thank you, Mrs. Webb. Thank you, Emily. I will have to interrupt you again. Well, a good deal of time gone by this evening.
You can hear choir practice going on in the Congregational Church.
The children are at home doing their schoolwork.
Days run down like a tired clock.
Softer, softer. Get it out of your heads that music's only good when it's loud. You leave loudness to the Methodists. You could read if you wanted to. Now again, tenors.
Psst, Emily.
Hello.
Hello. Emily, did you get the third problem?
Which?
Third.
Oh, why yes, George. That's the easiest of them all.
I don't see it. Emily, can you give me a hint?
I'll tell you one thing. The answer's in yards.
Yards? How do you mean?
In square yards?
Square yards?
Yes, George. Don't you see?
Yeah.
In square yards of wallpaper?
Wallpaper. Oh, thanks, Emily.
You're welcome. My, isn't the moonlight wonderful? And choir practice is going on. If you hold your breath, you can hear the train whistle. Hear it?
What do you know?
Well, I guess I better get back and try to work. Good night, George.
Good night, Emily.
Now,
Thanks.
before I forget it, how many of you will be able to come in Tuesday afternoon and sing at Fred Ursi's wedding? Show your hands. That'll be fine. That'll be right nice. We'll do the same music we did for Jane Trowbridge's last month. Now we'll do Art Thou Weary, Art Thou Languid. It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Make it talk. Ready?
Oh, George, you couldn't down a minute.
Yes, Bob.
Sit down. I'll only keep you a second. George, how old are you?
I'm 16, almost 17.
What would you like to do when school's over?
You know, Pa, I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
So you'll be willing, will you, to get up early, feed and milk the cattle, and hoe and hay all day?
Sure I will. What are you saying?
Well, George, I was in my office the other day when I heard a funny sound. And guess what it was? It was your mother chopping wood. Now, here's your mother, getting up early every day, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing, and she still has to go outside and chop wood. I guess she just got tired of asking you. I guess she just decided that it would be easier to do it herself. And here you are, living under her house, eating her food, wearing the clothes she keeps nice for you. You're treating her like some hired girl to keep her in the house, but we don't like very much. It's unacceptable. Well, I knew all I had to do was call your attention to it. Here's a handkerchief, son. George, I've decided to raise your spending money 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother, because that's a present you give her. But because you're getting older, and I'd imagine that you have a lot more things to do with it.
Thanks, Pa.
You're welcome. Go to bed.
Night, everybody. Fred Ursi's wedding on Tuesday.
Real nice choir practice, wasn't it? Myrtle Webb, look at that moon, will ya?
Naturally, I didn't want to say a word about it in front of the others, but now we're alone. Really, it's the worst scandal that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
Now, Luella.
But Julia, to have the organist of the church drink and drunk year after year. You know, he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about Mr. Stimson, and we all know about the troubles he's been through. Dr. Ferguson knows too. And if Dr. Ferguson is willing to keep him there on his job, the only thing the rest of us can do is just not to notice it.
Not to notice it, but it's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. It's getting better. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have, and it doesn't happen anywhere near so often. My, I hate to go to bed on a night like this. Good night, Luella.
Can you get home safe, Luella?
It's as bright as day.
What did you do all the time I was away?
Oh, I read as usual. What were the girls gossiping about tonight?
Well, believe me, Frank, there is something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson got far gone, was he?
Worse than I've ever seen him.
Well, I guess I know more about Simon Stimson's affairs than anyone else in this town. Some people just ain't made for small town life. All we can do now is just leave well enough alone. Let's go to bed.
Get out, Rebecca. There's only room for one at this window. Use your own.
Well, let me just look a minute.
Always spoiling everything. Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think? I think the moon's getting nearer and nearer, and then there'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting nearer, the guys that set up with telescopes all night would see it, and they'd tell about it and be in all the newspapers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights are out. No, there's Constable Warren. And there's Ed Webb at the Pony's newspaper today.
Good evening, Bill.
Evening, Mr. Webb.
Quite a moon.
Yep.
All quiet tonight?
Simon Stimson's rolling around a little. Just saw his wife come about to hunt for him, so I looked the other way. There he is now. I don't know how it's going to end, Mr. Webb.
Well, I've seen a peck of trouble, one thing after another. Good night, Bill.
Good night, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, Papa, it's just me.
Why aren't you in bed?
Oh, I don't know, Papa. The moonlight's just so wonderful.
Yes. Haven't any troubles in your mind, have you, Emily?
Troubles, Papa? No.
Well, enjoy yourself, but don't let your mother catch you. Good night, Emily.
Good night.
George, I never told you about that letter that Jane Coffett got from a minister when she was sick. He wrote Jane a letter, and on the envelope, the address was like this. It said, Jane Coffett, Crawford Farm, Sutton County, Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, United States of America.
What's funny about that?
Listen, it's not finished. United States of America, North America, the Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God.
What do you know?
That's what says on the envelope, and the postman brought it just the same.
What do you know?
That's the end of the first act. We're going to take a few minutes break. Years have gone by. Yes, the sun's come up over 1,000 times. Summer and winters have cracked the mountains a little bit more and brought down some of the dirt.
A few babies that weren't even born before have begun talking regular sentences already. And a few people who thought they were right young and spry can't bound a flight of stairs like they used to, without their hearts fluttering a little.
All that can happen in 1,000 days.
Nature's been twisting and contriving in other ways too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Almost everybody in our town gets married. Almost everybody in the world climbs into their graves married.
The first act was called Day Life. This act's called Love and Marriage. There's another act coming up after this. I reckon you can guess what that's about. Well, it's 3 years later. It's 1904.
It's July 7th, just after the high school commencement. That's the time most of our young people jump up and get married.
There's a 5:45 for Boston. Here come Mrs. Gibb and Mrs. Webb coming down to make breakfast as though it were an ordinary day.
Yeah, Bessie.
Here comes Howie Newsom delivering the milk, and there's Cy Crowell delivering the paper like his brother before him.
Morning, Howie.
Morning, Si. Anything in the papers I have to know?
Nothing much, except we're losing about the best baseball pitcher Grover's Corners ever had, George Gibbs.
Reckon he is.
He could hit and run bases, too.
Yep, mighty fine ball player. Whoa, Bessie. I guess I can stop and talk if I have a mind to.
I don't see how we could give him a thing like that just to get married. Would you, Howie?
Can't tell, Si. Never had no talent that way. You're up early, Bill.
Seeing if there's anything I can do to prevent a flood. Roof's been rising all night.
Si Crowell here is all worked up about George Gibbs retiring from baseball.
Yes, sir, that's the way it goes. Back in '84, we had a player. Si, even George Gibbs couldn't touch him. Name of Hank Todd. Went down to Maine and became a Parson. Wonderful ball player. How's the weather looking, Howie?
Ain't bad. Maybe it'll clear up for good.
Good morning, Howie.
Morning, Mrs. Gibbs. How much did you want today?
Well, I'm going to have a house full of relations. Looks to me I'm going to need 2 milk and 3 of cream.
My wife says to tell you we both hope they'll be very happy, Mrs. Gibbs. No, they will.
Thanks a lot, Howie. Tell your wife I hope she gets there to the wedding.
She'll be there if she can. Morning, Mrs. Webb.
Good morning, Mr. Newsom. I told you 4 milk, but I hope you can spare me another.
And 2 of cream? Mrs. Newsom told me to tell you we both hope they'll be very happy, Mrs. Webb. No, they will.
Thank you, and thank you, Mrs. Newsom. We're counting on seeing you at the wedding.
Couldn't miss it. Come on, Bessie.
Well, Ma, the day's come. You're losing one of your chicks.
Frank Gibbs, don't you say another word. I feel like crying every minute. Sit down and drink your coffee.
The groom's up shaving himself, whistling and singing in the mirror like he's happy to leave us. Every once in a while he says I do in the mirror, but it doesn't sound too convincing to me.
I'm kind of Claire, Frank. I don't know how we'll get along. I've arranged his clothes and I've seen what he's put warm things on. Frank, they're too young. Emily won't think of such things. He'll catch his death of a cold within a week.
I was thinking of my wedding, Julia.
Now don't start with that, Frank Gibbs.
I was the scariest young fellow in New Hampshire. I knew I'd make a mistake.
And how do you think I felt? Here, I've made something for you.
Why, Julia Hersey, French toast.
It ain't hard to make, and I had to do something.
How'd you sleep last night, Julia?
Well, I heard a lot of the hours struck off.
Yes, I get a shock every time I think of George setting out to be a family man, that great gangling thing. You know, there's nothing so terrifying as a son. The relationship between a son and a father is the darndest, awkwardest...
Well, mother and daughter's no picnic, let me tell you.
They'll have a lot of troubles, I suppose. But it's none of our business. Everyone's entitled to their own troubles.
Yes, people are meant to go through life 2 by 2. Tain't natural to be lonesome. Did you hear Rebecca stirring around upstairs?
No, only day of the year she isn't ordering everyone's business around up there. I get the impression she's crying.
Lord's sakes, it's got to stop. Rebecca, come and get your breakfast.
Morning, everybody. 5 more hours to live.
George Gibbs, where are you going?
Stepping across the grass to see my girl.
Now, George, you put on your overshoes. Don't you see all those puddles? You do not go out of this house without you're prepared for it.
It's just a step.
George, you'll catch your death of a cough and cold all through the service.
George, do as your mother tells you.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weathers. But while you're in my house, you live wisely. Thank you.
Back in a minute. Good morning, Mother Webb.
Oh, George, you frightened me. Now, George, you can come in a minute out of the wet, but you know I can't ask you it.
Why not?
George, you know as well as I do, the groom can't see his bride on his wedding day until he sees her in the church.
Oh, that's just a superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in that superstition, do you?
There's a lot of common sense in some superstition, George.
How is Emily?
She hasn't waked up yet. I haven't heard a sound out of her.
Emily's asleep?
No wonder. We're up till all hours sewing and packing. Now I'll tell you what I do. You sit down here and drink this here cup of coffee with Mrs. Webb. And I'll go upstairs and be sure she doesn't come down and surprise you. There's some baking too, but don't be long about it.
Well, George, how are you?
Fine, I'm good. I wish a man could get married without all this marching up and down.
Every man that has ever lived has felt that way about it, George. But it hasn't been any use. It's the women folk who've kept up marriages. A man looks pretty small at a wedding, next to all those good women standing shoulder to shoulder, making sure the knot is tied in a mighty public way.
But you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Oh yes, yes. I believe in marriage, my boy. Marriage is a wonderful thing, and don't you forget it. George, are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Uncle Luke's never been much interested.
A book came to my office the other day, The Philo System of Raising Chickens.
Charles, are you talking about those chickens again? I thought you two'd be talking about something worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you wish to give the boy some good advice, I'll leave you alone with him.
Now, George, Emily has got to come down and eat her breakfast. She sends her love, but she doesn't want to lay eyes on you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. Now we're going to have to interrupt again. You see, we're interested in how this began. This wedding, this plan to spend a lifetime together. We're awful interested in how big things like that begin. You know how it is when you're 21 or 22 and you make some decisions, then whoosh, you're 70, you've been a lawyer for 50 years, and that white-haired lady next to you has eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin?
George and Emily are going to show you the conversation they had when they first knew that as the saying goes, they were meant for one another. But before they do that, I want you to try to remember what it was like to have been very young.
And particularly the days when you were first in love. When you were like a person sleepwalking. You didn't quite see the street you're in. You didn't quite hear everything that was said to you. You were just a little bit crazy. Will you remember that, please?
There they are, coming down Main Street now.
I can't, Louise. I've got to go home. Oh, Ernstine, can you come over later and do Latin? Isn't that Cicero the worst thing? Tell your mother you have to. Goodbye. Goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Fred.
Emily, can I carry your books home for you?
Why, thank you. It isn't far.
Why are you mad at me?
Why, Georgia, I'm not mad at you.
You've been treating me so funny lately.
Well, since you asked, I might as well say it right out. George, oh, goodbye, Miss Corcoran.
Goodbye, Miss Corcoran. What is it?
I don't like the whole change that's come over you recently. I'm sorry if that hurt your feelings.
A change? What do you mean?
Well, up to about a year ago, I used to like you a lot. And I used to watch you as you did everything, because we've been friends for so long. But then you started spending all your time at baseball, and you never stopped to talk to anybody anymore, not even your own family you didn't. And George, it's a fact you've gotten awful stuck up and conceited lately, and all the girls think so. I'm sorry if that hurt your feelings, but I can't be sorry you said it.
I'm glad you said it, Emily. I never thought such a thing was happening to me. I guess it's hard for a fella not to have faults creep into his character.
Oh, well, you might as well know right now that I'm not perfect either. I'm sorry I said all that about you. I don't know what made me say it.
Emily, would you like an ice cream soda or something before you go home?
Why, thank you. I would.
Morning, George. Morning, Emily. What do you have?
2 strawberry ice cream sodas, Mr. Morgan.
There you are. Enjoy.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, Miss Alice, what can I do for you?
Emily?
Yes?
Emily, if I do go away to State Agricultural College next year, will you write me a letter every once in a while?
I certainly will, George. I certainly will. Seems like being away 3 years, you get out of touch with things. Maybe letters from Grover's Corners wouldn't be so interesting after a while. Grover's Corners isn't a very important town when you think of all of New Hampshire, but I think it's a very nice town. Well, I'll try to make my letters interesting.
My Uncle Luke, he's about ready for me to start taking over his farm tomorrow, if I could. But every time I meet a farmer, I ask him if he thinks it's important to go to State Agricultural College, to be a good farmer. Most of them say it's a waste of time and money. You can get all those things from the pamphlet the government sends out. Uncle Luke's about ready, as I said, for me to start taking over his farm tomorrow. And I'll make up my mind right now. I won't go. I'll tell Pa about it tonight.
Why, George, I don't see why you have to decide right now. It's a whole year away.
Emily, if I do make a big change and improve, could you be?
I am now, George. I always have been.
So I guess this is important talk we've been having.
Yes. Yes.
Wait just a minute and I'll take you home.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
I'm ready.
Well, now I'm ready to get on with the wedding. There are lots of things to be said about a wedding. There's lots of thoughts go into a wedding. As you see, for a while now the play gets pretty serious. You see, some churches say that marriage is a sacrament. I don't quite know what that means, but I can guess. Like Miss Gibbs said a few minutes ago, people are made to live 2 by 2.
This is a good wedding, but people are so put together that even at a good wedding, there's a lot of confusion way down deep in people's minds. And we thought that ought to be in our play too.
And don't forget about all the other witnesses, the ancestors. Millions of them. Most of them also set out to live 2 by 2.
Well, that's my son.
I don't know why I should be crying. It came over me at breakfast this morning. There was Emily sitting there eating her breakfast like she's done for 17 years, and now she's going to eat it in someone else's kitchen. I suppose that's it. And Emily, she suddenly said, "I can't eat another mouthful," and she put her head down on the table and she cried. Well, there they come.
George, what's the matter?
Ma, I don't want to go. Why is everyone pushing me so?
Why, George, you want
No,
it.
Ma, listen to me.
Now stop. Why, I'm ashamed of you.
Where's Emily?
Ah, George, you gave me such a turn.
Cheer up, Ma. I'm getting married.
I never felt so alone in my whole life. And George over there, looking so... I hate him. Papa! Papa!
Emily, don't get upset.
But Papa, I don't want to get married.
Shh. Everything's gonna be okay.
But why can't I just stay for a while just as I am? Let's go away and...
No. Now stop and think about it.
But Papa, remember what you used to say? All the time you said. All the time you used to say that I was your girl.
Emily, you're just nervous. George, will you come here a minute? Well, you are marrying the best young fellow ever. George is a fine fellow. George, I'm giving away my daughter. Do you think you can take care of her?
I do. I want to try, Emily. I love you.
Well, if you love me, help me. All I want is someone to love me.
I will, Emily. I'll try. I love you.
Come quick, they're waiting for us.
You, George, take this woman, Emily, to be your wedded wife.
Perfectly lovely wedding. Loveliest wedding I ever saw. Oh, I do love a good wedding, don't you? Doesn't she make a lovely bride?
Do you, Emily, take this man, George.
Don't know when I've seen such a lovely wedding, but I always cry. Don't know why it is, but I always cry. I just like to see young people happy, don't you? Oh, I think it's lovely.
I've married over 2,000 couples in my day. Do I believe in it? I don't know. N marries N, millions of them. Once in 1,000 times it's interesting. Well, let's have the wedding lunch.
Aren't they a lovely couple? Oh, I've never been to such a nice wedding. I'm sure they'll be happy. I always say, happiness, that's the great thing. The important thing is to be happy.
That's the end of the second act, folks. We're going to take another short break. This time 9 years have gone by. It's summer 1913. Gradual changes in Grover's Corners.
Horses are getting rarer. Farmers come into town in Fords. Everybody locks their doors now at night. Though, on a whole, things don't change much around here.
Now, this certainly is an important part of Grover's Corners. It's on a hilltop, a windy hilltop. Lots of sky, lots of clouds, lots of sun, moon, stars.
And on a clear day, you can see range on range of hills. Awful blue they are. And if you got a scope, you can see the White Mountains, Mount Washington. And of course, our favorite mountain, Mount Monadnock.
Yes, beautiful up here. Mountain laurels and lilacs. I often wonder why people like to be buried in places like Woodlawn or Brooklyn, and they might pass the same time up here in New Hampshire. Over there
are the Old Stones, 1670, 1680, strong-minded people that came a long way to be independent. Over there are the Civil War veterans. New Hampshire boys had a notion that the Union ought to be kept together, though they'd never seen more than 50 miles of themselves. All they knew was the name, the United States of America. The United States of America, and they went and died about it.
Over here are the new Stones. There's Mrs. Gibbs and, let me see, there's Mr. Stimpson, organist at the Congregational Church, and Miss Soames, who enjoyed the wedding so. You remember? Oh, many others besides. And Editor Webb's boy, Wallace, who was appendix burst when he was on a Boy Scout trip to Crawford Notch. Yes, awful lot of sorrows been quieted up out here. People just wild with grief brought their family up here. And then you know how it is. It's been rainy days, sunny days, and snow.
We're awful glad they're in a beautiful place. We're coming up here ourselves when our fit's over.
We all know that something's eternal, and it ain't the names, and it ain't the houses, and it ain't the earth, and it ain't even the stars.
The dead don't stay interested in us living people very long. Gradually, they was hold of the earth, and the ambitions they had, and the pleasures they had, and the things they suffered, and the people they loved.
They get weaned away from the earth. That's the way I put it, weaned away. They're waiting for something, something that they think is important, something that they think is important and great. Aren't they waiting for the eternal part in them to come out clear?
Here are some living people. There's Joe Stoddard, our undertaker, supervising a new-made grave. And there's Sam Craig, who left town to go out west.
Good afternoon, Joe Stoddard.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Let me see now. Do I know you?
I'm Sam Craig.
Gracious sake alive! Of all people, I should have known you'd be back for the funeral. Been away a long time, Sam.
Yes, I've been away for 12 years. I'm in business in Buffalo now, Joe, but I was in the East when I got news of my cousin's death. So I thought I'd combine things a little, come see the old home. You look well.
Yes, can't complain. Very sad our journey today, Sam.
Yes.
Yes. I always say I hate to supervise when a young person is taken. They'll be here in a few minutes now. I have to come here early today. My son's supervising at the home.
Old Farmer McCarty. I used to do chores for him after school. He had the lumbago.
Yes, we brought Farmer McCarty here a number of years ago now.
Why, this is my Aunt Julia. Forgotten that she... Of course, of course.
Doc Gibbs lost his wife 2-3 years ago, about this time. And today's another pretty bad blow for him, too.
That's my sister Carrie's boy, Sam Craig.
Always uncomfortable when they're around.
Simon.
Do they choose their own verses much, Joe?
No, not usually. Mostly the bereaved pick a verse.
Doesn't sound like my Aunt Julia. There aren't many of those hers and sisters left now. Let me see. Where are... I wanted to go look at my father's and mother's.
Over there with the Craigs, Avenue F.
He was an organist at church, wasn't he? Drank a lot, we used to say.
Nobody was supposed to know about it. He's in a peck of trouble. Took his own life, you know.
Oh, did he?
Hung himself in the attic. They tried to hush it up, but of course it got around. He chose his own epitaph. You can see it there. It ain't a verse exactly.
Why, it's just the notes of music. What is it?
Oh, I wouldn't know. It was wrote up in the Boston papers at the time.
Joe, what did she die of?
Who?
My cousin.
Oh, didn't you know? Had some trouble bringing a baby into the world. 'Twas her second. She's a little boy about 4 years old.
Grave's gonna be over there?
Yes, excuse me now. I see they're coming.
My daughter-in-law, Emily Webb.
Well, I declare, the road with her must have been awful muddy. What did she die of, Julia?
In childbirth.
Childbirth. I'd forgotten about that. My, wasn't life awful and wonderful?
Wonderful, was it?
Simon, now remember.
I remember Emily's wedding. Wasn't it a lovely wedding? And I remember her reading the class poem at graduation exercises. Emily was one of the brightest girls ever graduated from high school. I've heard Principal Wilkins say so time after time. I called on them at their new farm just before I died. Perfectly beautiful farm.
It was on the same road we lived on.
Yep, right smart farm.
I always liked that hymn. I was hoping they'd play it hymn.
Hello.
Hello, Emily.
Oh, Mrs. Gibbs.
Hello, Mother Gibbs.
Emily.
Hello. It's raining.
Yes, they'll be gone soon, dear. Just rest yourself.
Seems like thousands and thousands of years since Papa remembered that was my favorite hymn. Oh, how I wish I'd been here a long time. I hate being new here. How do you do, Mr. Stimson?
How do you do, Emily?
Mother Gibbs, George and I made that farm to just the best place you ever saw. Won't be the same to George without me, though. But it's a lovely farm. Live people don't understand, do they?
No, not very much.
They're sort of just shut up in little boxes. I feel as though I knew them last 1,000 years ago. My boy is spending the day at Mrs. Carter's. Oh, Mr. Carter, my boy is spending the day at your house.
Is he?
Yes, he loves it there. Mother Gibbs, we have a Ford, too. Never gives any trouble. I don't drive, though. Mother Gibbs, when does this feeling go away of being one of them? How long does it...
Shh. Just wait and be patient.
I know. Look, they're finished. They're going. Shh. Look, Father Gibbs is bringing some of my flowers to you. Oh, he looks just like George, doesn't he? Mother Gibbs, I never realized before how troubled, and how in the dark life persons are. Look at him. I loved him so. From morning till night, that's all they are. Troubled.
A bit cooler than it was.
Yes, that rain's cooled it off a little.
Those northeast winds always do the same thing, don't they?
And if it isn't rain, it's a 3-day blow.
But Mother Gibbs, one can go back there, into the living. I feel it. I know it. Why, just then for a minute, I was thinking about the farm, and for a minute, I was there, and my baby was on my lap just as plain as day.
Yes, of course you can.
I can go back and live all those days over again? Why not?
All I can say is, Emily, don't.
But it's true, isn't it? I can go back and live there again? Yes, some have tried, but they soon come back.
Don't do it, Emily.
Emily, don't. It's not what you think it'd be.
But I won't live over a sad day. I'll choose a happy one. I'll choose the day I first knew I loved George. Why should that be painful? You not only live it, but you watch yourself living it. Yes? And as you watch it, you see the thing that they, down there, never know. The future. You know what's going to happen afterwards. I'll choose a happy day anyway.
No. At least choose an unimportant day. Choose the least important day in your life. It will be important enough.
Then it can't be since I was married, or since the baby was born. I can choose a birthday at least, can't I? I choose my 12th birthday. All right. 1899, February 11th. Do you want any special time of day? Oh, I want the whole day. All right. We'll begin at dawn. It had been snowing for the past few days, but it had stopped the night before. They had begun clearing the roads. The sun's coming out. Oh, why, there's Main Street. And there's the Congregational Church. There's the houses. It's all so lovely and misted so. Look, there's Howie Newsom. And there's our policeman. But he's dead. He died.
Whoa, Bessie. Bessie?
Good morning, Howie.
Morning, Bill. You're up early.
Didn't get the rest of you on a party. Darn near froze to death.
Children, time to get up. Wally, Emily.
Oh, how young Mama looks. I didn't know Mama was ever that young.
Children, time to get up. I don't want to call you again. You can come and dress by the kitchen fire if you like, but hurry. Good morning, Mr. Newsom. Ooh, it's cold outside.
And below my barn, Mrs. Webb.
Think of it. Keep yourself wrapped up.
Mama, I can't find my blue hair ribbon anywhere.
Just open your eyes, dear, that's all. I laid it out for you special, on the dresser there. If it were a snake, it'd bite you.
Yes, yes.
Good morning, Mother.
Good morning. Howie Newsom says it's 10 below over by his barn.
It's colder than that. I'm in college. Students' ears are falling off.
So, did you remember it's Emily's birthday? Did you get her something?
Yes, I did. Got it right here. Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
Don't interrupt her now, Charles. She's slow enough as it is. Children, Wally, Emily, you'll be late for school. Now I don't want to call you again.
They're so young and beautiful. Why did they ever have to get old? Mama, I'm here. I love you all, everything. Can't look at everything hard enough. Good morning, Mama.
Well, now, dear, a very happy birthday to you. And many happy returns. There's some surprises for you on the kitchen table.
Oh, Mama, you shouldn't have. I can't.
I bet you can guess who brought in that postcard album. I found it on the stoop when I went out to get the milk. George Gibbs. Must have come over in the cold pretty early in the morning. Right nice of him.
Oh, George, I'd forgotten that.
But birthday or no birthday, I want you to eat your food good and slow. I want you to grow up and be a big, strong girl.
Oh, Mama, just look at me 1 minute, as though you really saw me. 14 years have gone by now, Mama. I'm dead. You're a grandmother, Mama. I married George Gibbs, Mama. Wally's dead, too. His appendix burst on that camping trip to North Conway. We felt just terrible about it, don't you remember?
That and the yellow paper there is something I found among your grandmother's things in the attic. You're old enough to wear it now. I thought you might might like it.
Oh, Mama, it's just lovely. It's just what I wanted. It's beautiful.
Well, I hoped you'd like it. Wally has something for you, too. Make sure you make a big deal about it. And your father has something for you. Don't know what it is myself. Shh, here he comes.
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
I can't. It goes so fast. We don't have time to look at one another. I never realized. So all this was going on, and we never even noticed. Take me back, up the hill to my grave. But first, wait. One last look. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corners. Mama and Papa. Goodbye to food and coffee and new iron dresses and sleeping and waking up. Do any human beings ever realize life as they live it every minute?
No. Saints and poets, maybe. They do some.
I'm ready to go back.
Were you happy?
No. I should have listened to you. That's all human beings are, just blind people.
Look, it's clearing up. The stars are coming out.
Oh, Mr. Stimson, I should have listened to
Yes,
them.
now you know. Now you know. That's the happy existence you wanted to go back to. To move about in a cloud of ignorance. To go up and down trampling on the feelings of those about you. To be always at the mercy of one self-centered passion or another. Yes, now you know. That's the happy place you wanted to go back to. Ignorance. Ignorance and blindness.
Simon Stimson, that ain't the whole truth and you know it. Emily, look at that star. I forget its name.
My boy Joel was a sailor, knew 'em all. He sat on porch evenings and tell 'em all by name. Yes, sir, wonderful.
Stars mighty good company.
Yes, 'tis.
Here's one of them coming.
That's funny. Take time for one of them to be here.
Mother Gibbs, it's George.
Shh, dear. Just rest yourself.
It's George.
And my boy Joel who knew the stars, he used to say it took 1,000,000 years for that speck o' light to get to the earth. Hard for a body to believe, but that's what he used to say, millions of years.
Goodness, that ain't no way to behave.
You ought to be home.
Mother Gibbs,
Yes, Emily?
they don't understand, do they?
No, they don't understand.
Most everybody's asleep in Grover's Corners. And there are the stars, making their own crisscross journeys across the sky. Scholars haven't decided on the matter yet, but they seem to think there ain't no life up there. Just chalk or fire, only this one strained away to make something of itself. And the strain's so great, that every 16 hours or so, everybody gotta lie down and take a rest. 11 o'clock in Grover's Corners. Best you get a good rest too. Good night.
I was standing by the window on